Now, you decided on this week's talking point,
I did.
Alex. Tell us why and what it is.
So it's television's most shocking or most memorable moments. Now, it's obvious because something rather big happened in this week's episode of Game of Thrones. Now, I'm not going to talk about it specifically because there probably are still some people who haven't seen it, but it was, an amazing piece of television, which I just didn't expect. I haven't read the books. And
you managed to avoid the spoilers for a day.
And I managed to avoid the spoilers, although I'm pleased I watched it when it aired over here in the UK because that night a USPR sent out an email to all of IGN's editors with a spoiler in the subject line. And there were some very unhappy people, including Greg Miller, who he replied just saying, you suck a lot, take us off your mailing list. And it's just like, why would you do that?
That's ridiculous.
So I thought you've changed. Can't say it's most shocking and most memorable because they're different things. Because I've been thinking about shocking.
Well, you go shocking.
If I go most memorable, there's all kinds of different things I could think about.
Okay, well, a lot of the examples. Let me give you some of my examples before you start.
He's changed it, isn't he?
No, I haven't.
Because of his list.
Well, you tell me if you think they're shocking. So, sticking with Game of Thrones, obviously there is Red Wedding,
of course,
but I actually think the beheading of Ned Stark was.
Spoiler alert!
Well, that's season 1. Surely we're allowed to talk about that by now.
That was I think that is the most shocking piece of television I can remember in a long, long time.
And that to me set up Game of Thrones like, right, that's what you can expect from this show.
Yeah.
And also, in terms of spoilers, the teaser for the second season was his head on a spike. So it's like, you can't get around that.
I remember that happening though, and just sitting there thinking, have they just done that?
Totally.
Was that a thing? Have they? No, they haven't, have they? There's got to be
they'll never do that because most TV shows never pull punches like that. It's, they kind of set it up and nothing really happens. Because I was trying to think about some for 24 as well, but you always know that he's going to be all right.
Yes, that's true.
I guess, there was a couple of like double crossing moments and stuff like that. But so other stuff, Breaking Bad, the bit obviously when the penny drops and Hank realises who Walter White was. That's not so much shocking, but that's pretty.
That was setting up for the last 6 episodes as well, wasn't it? Really, and you had that really long wait if you'd been watching it as they'd been going.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought probably the most shocking moment was when Gus Fring goes into the lab and then just stabs the guy who's kind of watching them, and it's just so cold and merciless. And I was reading about it, like how don't know the name of the actor was prepared for it, but he basically didn't talk to anybody for the entire day of shooting because he wanted to get into the zone of being a mental killer. So there you go.
Nice.
Sorry, a couple more. When JR got shot in Dallas, that's a shocking moment.
Was it?
Yeah.
Was it really a shocking moment? Because it had been. I don't know if it was because it had been trailed. The fact that he was going to be shot. It was. Everybody was going around who shot JR, who's going to be shooting JR, who's responsible for this for a long time before.
See, I don't remember that. I was too young.
Okay.
Well, it was.
That was exciting television.
It was a huge news story, but I don't know if all the press stuff happened after he got shot.
Must have
because
been
it was
after.
who shot. Because it's quite a long time till they revealed who it was.
Yeah.
It must have been after when he was actually shot. They can't have been building up before that.
But
I can't. Well, I've just read a book on 80s TV.
Yeah,
because it's the kind of boring bastard I am.
Yeah,
and it was saying how there was this kind of expectation building up in the last couple of weeks towards that actual episode because there were rumours that he was going to be shot. So I don't know if that had been planted by the TV company.
Right.
Because
most people listening to this podcast have no idea what we're talking about.
Dallas is back.
Yeah, I know, but still, it's not the same people. Isn't it back and then it went again?
Yeah, probably.
And wasn't there supposed to be a big screen version?
There was. It was going to be John Travolta, was going to be JR. I remember that Jennifer Lopez was going to be in it. It never happened.
Do you know why JR got shot?
Because somebody pointed a gun at him. Pulled the
Amazing.
trigger?
Contract negotiations.
Is that right?
Because Larry Hagman had become the default centre of the show.
Yeah.
More by accident than design, because originally Dallas was meant to be a kind of Romeo and Juliet story between his sister Pam Ewing and I can't remember the guy's name.
Not Bobby.
No,
is that her brother?
Well, that was another memorable moment.
It certainly was,
when he
coming out
stepped
of the shower. Yeah.
Nobody's
got an idea what we're talking about. Ask your parents or even your grandparents.
I like that it's become the Dallas podcast, though.
Yes. So I've got one more moment,
okay.
and it's Walking Dead. I think it was season 2 when Sophia, so it's the daughter of the grey-haired woman whose name I can't remember for the life of me, and they're all looking for her, and then she happens to be a zombie, and Rick shoots her in the head.
Oh, comes out the barn.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty shocking.
Sad.
I still haven't done Walking Dead, and I feel
actually,
like I ought to.
There is, I've only just remembered it, there is a moment, all I'm going to say is the moment in this season, the babysitting bit is horrendous.
Okay.
The 2 sisters, it's horrendous.
The new stuff.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the new stuff yet.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was watching that on the train coming into work, and it's the most depressing thing I've ever seen, especially for a morning commute.
Really?
Yeah. It's there's nothing positive about it.
The day you came in and were really horrible to all of us.
Probably.
Stu?
So,
memorable moments. I remember sitting down. This is a weird one for me, but it was really memorable. Was watching Blankety Blank when Terry Wogan was on Blankety Blank. Blankety Blank, if you've no idea what it is,
definitely not shocking.
It's not shocking. It was a really.
He pulled out his.
It was a game show, and you'd have 2 contestants. You'd have 6 people, and they'd be arranged in 2 lots of 3 up above, on like a plinth kind of thing. And you'd always have, like, in the top row, you'd have like a fairly kind of straight guy, you'd have a woman in the middle and another guy, and then downstage you'd have like a pretty woman, then you'd have a comedian, and then you'd have somebody else. And I remember being really excited because on this episode, Kenny Everett was going to be on.
You were going to say
You
Kenny
knew I was going to
Everett.
say this. And the host of Blankety Blank, Terry Wogan, had this really unusual microphone. It was like really long and incredibly thin. It was a bit like a car aerial with a little black bobble on top.
Yeah.
Don't know why he had it. It was just like an affectation, I suppose. But I remember him going over to Kenny Everett with this microphone and asking Kenny Everett what his answer was going to be. And Kenny just grabbing this mic and just bending it completely in half. Yeah. And the whole audience being absolutely shocked for a brief moment until they burst into
So it is shocking television.
It
was if you were Terry Wogan.
How bizarre is that? We're talking like 1983, I suppose. And one of the most surprising things to happen on TV was somebody's microphone getting bent.
What's yours, Chris?
I'm shocked. Now, what else do you have? You got anything that's more normal?
That's it.
I think the only other shocking moment was Oliver Reed on this Channel 4 TV show.
Right.
That came up on my YouTube today.
Did it?
Yeah. This morning I was looking for an Adam and Joe clip to send to someone, and that came up on the side. I was like, I've not seen that in a long time, Oliver Reed. It's quite sad.
It is quite sad, yeah. It was this late night discussion show Channel 4 used to have, and I can't remember the name of it. Suddenly it slipped my mind. But it was open-ended, and basically Channel 4 said, you know what, if it runs for an hour, it runs for an hour. If it runs for 3 hours, it runs for 3 hours. We're just going to let it run.
Yeah. That's so Channel 4
isn't
in the
it?
early days.
Isn't
God.
it? And they ply every guest on there with loads of wine and different types of booze and everything. And they had this woman on there who was a real ardent, hardcore feminist.
Yeah.
And Oliver Reed, who's
not a feminist,
as diametrically opposed to being to a feminist as you could possibly imagine, and he was absolutely pissed, and he was incredibly embarrassing up to the point where he decides he's going to cuddle up to this woman and actually say, "Give us a snog, big tits."
Wow.
To one of the most ardent feminists.
I've said to you before.
You have on several occasions, and I normally acquiesce. You know. And it was really, really cringeworthy, uncomfortable viewing. Yeah. And then eventually they kind of all ganged up on Oliver and just said, "Look, go away, you bore, you terrible man. Just leave us alone." And he just like staggers off, and this camera follows him like staggering off through the studio, and that was it. But I remember sitting there watching it live with my mouth hanging open, just thinking, what the hell is going on?
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, mine involved deaths quite a lot, I think, like some of yours did.
Yeah.
And because when you first put it out there, it reminded me of Dennis Leary used to do a joke about why Americans watch so much TV, and it said because we turned it on in 1963 and saw Lee Harvey Oswald get shot live, and we've been too scared to turn off since.
In case you missed something else. Yeah.
But so you mentioned 24, and that's the first thing I thought of. Actually, was one specific one, the last moments of the first series, when Nina double crosses him and then shoots his pregnant wife in the stomach.
That's right. Yeah.
That I didn't see that coming. I couldn't believe they did it, and it just made me think, well, all bets are off here. Even though you think Jack's always going to survive, anyone else here is expendable here. Yeah, he shot his pregnant wife. Yeah, there was a little baby in there.
Yeah.
So that was the first one that sprung to mind. Equally, Twin Peaks, when you finally saw how Laura Palmer died at the hands of Bob, and he's smashing her head into the glass. I remember that really upset me and shocked me as a kid. Like I was quite young, and it was quite a lot to take in.
Yeah. The whole of Twin Peaks was a lot to take in. It was,
a lot of it was shocking. The ending of The Sopranos, just because it had this
It was
ending,
incredibly brave, that ending, or stupid.
and kind of hated it at the time.
Yeah.
But you still find yourself talking about it to this day. So there was something about it. That was a clever ending. And then I started thinking, well, childhood as well. Those are some of the moments that have stayed with me. Zammo.
Right.
Zammo in Grange Hill. So back in about, when was it, 1985, I think, maybe.
No idea.
One of the characters in the TV soap opera for kids, Grange Hill, became addicted to heroin.
Yeah.
I'd never heard of heroin or drugs, really.
Yeah.
And then it was quite a memorable scene with him in the locker room going down.
Yeah.
Eh? I don't remember that happening.
But yeah, just say no, kids.
Just say no.
Just say no.
So yeah, those are the few that sprung to mind. Although you talked about memorable ones. I remember watching Family Fortunes when a guy said something stupid, and that's always stayed with me. You know, when they just panic say something in the last few seconds, and it's on YouTube. I have found it since. They asked him to say a type of ache, and he couldn't think of one, and it came back to him. I think head was the top, headache. And then it came back to him, and he had 4 seconds left, and well, no, you'll see why, because and he said fillet of fish. And the time was out. and it was so embarrassing when Les Dawes was like, we asked you for your type of ache, you said fillet o' fish, and he's going, oh damn. I think he thought they'd said hake.
Right.
But yeah, that stayed with me.
Oh, lovely stuff.
Well, listeners, you should let us know what your most memorable or most shocking TV moment is. You can email the IGN UK podcast by emailing
IGN_UK feedback at IGN.com.
The most memorable email address in the business.
I'm sure you'll agree.
But not the most shocking.
Not the most shocking.